right. So if you'd like, take a lift and have a seat up on your lift, cross your legs in the center of your shins. Take your feet beneath your knees. Rest your hands lightly on your thighs with your upper arms in line with your side ribs. And start with simply being here, seeking nothing in particular, but observing this current present moment experience. What thoughts are swirling through the head? What sensations are being experienced by the body? Welcoming the pleasant and the unpleasant equally. And then allowing the thoughts to move to the back, bottom part of the brain, giving yourself permission to drop your awareness into the body, into the here and now. Bring your awareness to your sit bones and find the even balance of your sit bones. Maintaining that even balance, lengthen from the inner thighs through the inner knees, but at the same time, lengthen from the upper inner thighs towards the lower abdomen. So that whole space between the lower abdomen and the inner knees, between the inner knees and the lower abdomen, is lengthening, opening. Descend the flesh of the inner thighs downward. The flesh of the inner thighs moves from the front of the leg to the back of the leg. Of course, maintaining the even balance of the sit bones and maintaining the opening of the groins as we do this. And then draw from your outer knees to your outer hips, compact the hips together. But as you compact the hips together, do so in such a way where you are not regripping the inner legs. Where there's still an opening, there's still a lengthening of the inner leg as you contract and compact the outer legs. Pause to notice the effects that these actions of the legs have. How does this affect the abdominal area? How does it affect the rest of the torso? How does it affect the neck, shoulders? How does it affect the breath? Maintaining this experience of the legs, the even balance of the sit bones and the experience of the legs, lengthen through the side ribs. There's a tendency to push the front bottom ribs forward. Draw the front bottom ribs towards the back body and lengthen from your hips through your armpits. Keep your shoulders over your hips, so there's no leaning forward or leaning back when you do this, especially leaning back. Many of us lean back when we do that. So keep the shoulders over the hips. And as you release the shoulders down and away from the sides of your neck, lengthen from your armpits through your inner elbows, what we sometimes call the groins of the arms. So just as we lengthen the groins of the legs, we lengthen the groins of the arms. Allowing the elbows to descend, bring your palms together with your thumbs at your chest. Touch your palms evenly left to right, right to left. It doesn't need to be hard. Sometimes we even say it's as if they're touching and not touching at the same time. But the pressure from left to right, right to left is even. And broaden from the center of the sternum over the collarbones, moving the shoulders away from each other, but equally spread from between the shoulder blades out towards the shoulders. So both the front chest and the back chest are spreading, widening. So there's a lifting as you lengthen through the side ribs, and there's a widening as you spread across the front and back chests. Release, relax all of your facial features and rest your eyes into your cheekbones, gazing at the seat of your heart, the seat of your soul. And let's chant the syllable Om 3 times together. Exhaling completely. Deep inhalation. Om. 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 15 your sternum towards the ceiling, lower your chin towards your heart. Release your hands onto your thighs with your palms up. With your eyes closed, raise your head. From the back of your head, gently let your eyelids open. Straighten your legs. You can take your hand, either fingertips on the floor, or if you're on the lift, you can take your hands on the lift, depending what you have. Legs straight. I'm gonna put some fans on here. It's getting warm in here. Feet together. So heels together, toes point straight up at the ceiling. Little toes move back towards you. Hands by your hips. Now, and some of you might be happier on the lift, some of you will be happier on the floor. If you're happier on the floor, get rid of your lift. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But if you're taking it in your lower back, then you want to be on a lift. Press your thigh bones down. Don't just jam the knees down, but bring your awareness higher up in the legs and press the thigh bones down. And find the lengthening from the inner thighs through the inner knees, through the inner heels. Heels stay down on the floor. Because you actually press your heels down too. If your heels begin to come up, it means you're pressing your knees down a little too much. So you press your heels down first. If you're on the floor, you press your heels down first, then you press your thighs down. And the heels stay down. And then everyone presses the thighs down, lengthen from the inner thigh through the inner knee, through the inner heel. But there's also the drawing back at the tops of the thighs. So from the upper inner thighs, draw back towards the abdomen. So that whole groin is lengthening. And then the energy extends through the inner leg. The flesh of the inner thighs descends down. Draw from your outer knees to outer hips. Compact the hips together. And again, we're looking for that compacting of the hips without compacting the inner legs, without contracting the inner leg. So we're looking for that opening in the inner leg and the contracting of the outer leg. Of course, balanced evenly on the sits bones. And then keeping the front bottom ribs towards the back body, lengthen through the side ribs. Keep the thighs pressing down as you lengthen up. In fact, the more you can press your thighs down, the more lengthening you get. Try not to do it with the head or the eyes. The chin is still parallel to the floor. The eyes are parallel to the floor or looking down slightly, if sometimes straight ahead is difficult for people. So in that case, look slightly down. Dandasana, staff pose. And then spread the legs. So this one too, some of you might be happier up on your lift, and some of you might be happier on the floor. You have to choose, and you can try it out. Go on the floor, go on your lift, see what you like. Keep your shoulders over your hips as best you can. Thigh bones down. So same actions of the legs, thigh bones down. Lengthen from the inner thighs, through the inner knees, through the inner heels, push through the balls of the big toes. But from the upper inner thighs, there's a drawing back towards the lower abdomen. Descend the flesh of the inner thighs. Draw from your outer knees to your outer hips, compact your hips together. Of course, I should have started with balance evenly on your sits bones. So make sure you're balanced evenly on the sits bones. And then opening the inner legs, contracting the outer legs, compacting the hips. And as you continue to press the thighs down, lengthen through the side ribs. Watch those front bottom ribs coming forward. Now we're going to twist to the right. So take your left hand between your legs, right hand on the outside of your legs. First lift. Lengthening is more important. So lengthen through the side ribs from the hips to the armpits. Press the thighs down in order to do that. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, turning. You had it right. There you go. And don't just rotate with the head, with the neck and head, but can you wrap your ribs around? Can you wrap your torso around? Moving your navel so that it begins to point towards that right leg or closer towards that right leg. Move your shoulders down. The side ribs lift and lengthen. The shoulders release down. And even as you turn, the weight begins to lift off of that left sit bone. So can you balance evenly on the sit bones as you turn? Inhale, maintain the lift. Exhale, come to center. Press both thighs down, lengthen through the inner legs. Find the symmetry in the pose. And then the other side. Take your right hand between your legs, left hand behind you. Inhale, lifting first. Exhaling, turning, wrapping the ribs around, not just with head. Keep the chin in line with your sternum. Otherwise, we begin to trick ourselves. It's not wrong to turn the head, but if we turn the head, it's the last thing to go. But often when we learn it, we keep the chin in line with the sternum so that we can really focus on the turning of the torso. Of course, maintain that even balance of the sits bones. On each inhalation, lift and lengthen. On each exhalation, turn. Move your shoulders away from your ears. The more you maintain the pressing of the thighs down, don't lose the legs. The more you maintain the pressing of the thighs down, the more lift and length you get in the side ribs. The more lift you get in the side ribs, the more you're able to turn. So it's all connected. Inhale, keep the lift, maintain that lift. Exhale, come to center. So there's also a forward bend version of this pose. So take your fingers between your legs. And just gently press the thighs down. And yes, extend out through the inner legs, push through the balls of the toes, but really from the upper inner thighs, draw back towards the abdomen. That's going to help the forward bend. And slowly crawl your hands forward. Don't just round the back to do it, but you're taking your chest not towards the floor, but towards the opposite side of the room. It doesn't matter how far you go. Different people will move differently. And then walk your fingers back up. And then walk forward again. Use your fingers. Keep the shoulder blades moving into the body. So the shoulder blades come in to lift the chest. We're not simply rounding the back. We're not seeking the floor, we're seeking the opposite side of the room. And the more you draw your upper inner thighs towards the abdomen, the more length you will get. Took me many years to actually really figure that one out. And then slowly walk your hands back. Fingertips by your hips. Take your hands on the inside of your knees. Put your legs straight up. And take your feet together. Now for me, when I'm up on the lift, I actually like a strap. So I'm going to get a strap. You can get a strap. If you're on the floor, you probably don't need one, although it depends on the length of your arms, to be clear. If you're on the floor and it's comfortable, you can take your hands underneath your feet. But if you do that, be careful that you're not pulling your feet up, that your feet push into your hands and then push into the floor. And if you're up on a lift, which is nice for some of us who have very tight hips, you can take that strap. It's just lengthening your arms, right? Because if I were to take my hands under, I'm now leaning forward. So I use the strap to pretend my arms are longer than they are. And now they are wrapped around my feet, as if my hands themselves are wrapped around my feet. Balance evenly on the sits bones. Don't hold that strap for dear life. It's gentle. Press the heels together. Lengthen from the inner thighs through the inner knees, but also from the upper inner thighs back towards the abdomen. And again, here, a lot of people practice this with the idea that the knees are supposed to go down. And that's not what we want to do. We want to take the knees further away from each other. Now, it is true that the further they move away from each other, the more you lengthen the groins, and the more the left knee goes to the left and the right knee goes to the right, the further down they'll go. They'll go towards the floor. But you don't want to just take them towards the floor. You need the opening first. And there is a drawing from the outer knees to the outer hips. Compact the hips together. And again, can you send signals from your brain in such a way where the outer leg is contracting and compacting while the inner leg opens and lengthens? And then maintaining that, maintaining the experience of the legs, take the front bottom ribs towards the back body and lengthen from the hips through the armpits. Lift the chest. Move the shoulders down as you lift the chest. And this is a nice pose to create twists in as well. If you're holding the strap, you can take the strap in your left hand. If you don't have a strap, you take your left hand onto your ankle, your right ankle. Your right hand goes behind you. Inhale, lift and lengthen through the side ribs. Exhale, bend your elbows away from each other as you turn and rotate towards the right. So Erica, a little easier sometimes to take that back hand and put it on the floor, because then that helps lift versus taking it all the way around. But whatever works for you today. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, turning. Bend that front elbow. That's going to help with the turn. The elbow moves towards the front of the room, that left elbow. That's it. That's it, Eric. Remember, we're wrapping the ribs around, not just turning in the neck, not just turning the head. Inhale, maintain that lift. Exhale, come to center. Take hold of both sides of the strap or hands underneath your feet. Find that symmetry once again. And then taking hold with the right hand, left hand goes behind you. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, turning. Now, granted, the elbow is not pointed towards the front of the room, but you're trying to get it there. So you're bending more towards the front of the room than the side of the room. That's going to help with the turn. Wrapping the ribs around. Don't let the front ribs pop forward. I can feel mine. They're just saying, go forward, make it easier for yourself. But it's not about the ease of it so much. It's about the length. So keep the front bottom ribs towards the back body so that you can really find that length of the side ribs, which of course means lengthen the spine. On each inhalation, lift and lengthen. On each exhalation, turn. Chin in line with your sternum. Shoulders down as you lift through the side ribs and chest. Inhale, maintain that lift. Exhale, come to center. Hold on to both sides of the strap. And then this pose also has a forward bend attached to it, so you can take your fingertips on the floor and slowly crawl your hands forward. But the more you move your knees out to the side, so lengthening that inner groin, and draw the upper inner thighs towards the abdomen so that that whole inner groin is being lengthened, the more forward you can go. And again, we're not seeking to round the back, we're seeking to lengthen. Seeking that chest towards the opposite side of the room. Keep your shoulder blades into the body as you do this. And sure, one day maybe there's enough space. You get your chest onto your feet and your head onto the floor. But that's not the goal of it. The goal is to create space. Walk your hands back. And then one more time. First do the legs, so lengthen those inner groins in both directions. And then your abdomen doesn't drop into you, but it lifts up and away so that there's space in the abdominal region. From your pubic bone to your navel, there's a lengthening. And from your navel to your sternum, there's a lengthening. And from your sternum to your collarbone, there's a lengthening. Walk your hands back. Come back up to center. Hold the sides of the strap or hands underneath your feet. Find the symmetry once again, the even balancing of the sit bones, lengthening of the inner legs, contracting and compacting of the outer legs. And release the strap. Take your hands on the outside of your knees. Push your legs together. Hold behind one knee. There are two strands there. Take one in each hand. Draw the flesh towards the buttocks. Drag the heel. Straighten the leg. Taking the hand behind the leg. Take those two strands and draw the flesh towards the buttock. Drag the heel. Straighten the leg. That just protects the knee. And back to Dandasana. Thighs down, lengthening the inner legs, drawing from the outer knees to the outer hips, the flesh of the inner thighs still descending. It's the same pose as we did a little bit ago, but is it the same experience? Because we've done some poses in between. So chances are your actual experience is slightly different. And release. Move the blocks out of your way, unless you need them for downward facing dog or would like to use them for downward facing dog. You can use blocks without needing them. And come onto your hands and knees. Of course, if you want blocks or want the chair, take that. If you're on the floor, shoulders over your wrists, knees slightly behind your hips. Press down through the balls of the first finger and thumb, and at the same time, rotate your upper arms out. So the forearm is rotating in as you press through the balls of the first finger and thumb, the upper arm rotates out. Push into the floor to lengthen through the inner arms. Turn your toes under, straighten your legs. Now get your arms back. So press through the balls of the first finger and thumb, rotate the upper arms out. Push into the floor to lengthen. Inhale. On your exhalation, take your thighs back, take your chest towards your thighs, take your sit bones towards the ceiling. Downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Don't sink in the front bottom ribs. The front bottom ribs still move towards the back body. Press your thigh bones back. So everything we did when we were sitting is happening here. The thigh bones are pressing back. There's still the lengthening from the inner knees. It's slightly different because it's an upward action, but from the inner knees, lengthening through the inner groins. Lifting from the outer knees to the outer hips, compact the hips together. The flesh of the inner thighs moving back. Now maintain that. Press through the balls of the first finger and thumb. Rotate the upper arms out and lengthen from the tips of the first fingers all the way through the inner arms, the armpits, and the sit bones. And as you maintain that pressing of the thighs back, and to be clear, not the knees, especially those who take it in the knees, not just the knees, but the thigh bones. Bring your awareness up higher in the leg. Press your thigh bones back. And as you press your thigh bones back, extend your outer heels towards the floor. Lift your hips up. Outer heels down, outer hips up. Now look up, walk your feet forward, and hold your elbows. Take your feet at least hip distance apart. They can be wider. If your legs aren't straight, take them wider. Take your upper arms in line with your ears. Upper arms in line with your ears. That helps lengthen your spine. Balance evenly on your 2 feet. Press the thigh bones back. This is going to sound familiar. Press the thigh bones back. Lengthen from your inner knees through your inner groins, through the lower abdomen. The flesh of the inner thighs moves back. Lift from the outer knees to the outer hips. And as your hips move up, as your sit bones move up, let your torso fall over your thighs. Let your arms go. Take your hands on the floor. Walk your feet back, downward facing dog. Straight arms, straight legs. Press the thigh bones back. Not just the knees, the thighs. Lengthen from the inner knees through the inner groins. The flesh of the inner thighs moving back. Lift from the outer knees to the outer hips. Press through the balls of the first finger and thumb. Rotate the upper arms out and lengthen through the inner arms, armpits, and side ribs. Yeah, so Olivia, be careful with your elbows. Don't roll the upper arms out so much that your elbows become beyond straight. Do you know what I mean by that? Some people can't straighten their arms. Some people over straighten their arms. You have to know which you are and then use your body accordingly. Let your head go. Look up, walk your feet forward. Hold your elbows the opposite way you did the first time. So crossing your forearms the opposite way you did the first time. Lengthening from the inner knees through the inner groins. The flesh of the inner thighs moving back. Watch those knees. So you don't want to just press the knee or shin bone back, but the thigh bone. If you feel you're pressing the shin bone back, take the shin bone forward as you press your thighs back. Those actions can happen simultaneously. The shin bone moves forward as the thigh bone moves back. Lift from the outer knees to the outer hips, compact the hips together. And move your hips towards the ceiling as your torso falls over your thighs. Let your arms go. Sweep your arms back. Take your torso parallel to the floor. Keep the thighs pressing back. Extend your arms back, chest forward. Inhale, come all the way up. And take your feet together into Tadasana. And you can turn to face the front. All right, take a couple blocks. We don't always break down what seem like the simpler poses. They're not the simpler poses, but they seem like the simpler poses. But hey, I didn't know it when I came in here, but today's the day we break it down, at least a little bit. So 2 parts of a forward bend. I'm going to show from the side so everybody can see me. Just watch first. So there's the concave back part, and concave back means that the shoulder blades are going in. So this is what I would call convex. We don't want that. This is what I call concave, where the shoulder blades are coming in. And we're lengthening the front of the spine, right? So there's a lengthening from the pubic bone to the navel, from the navel to the sternum, from the sternum to the collarbone. The height of the blocks depends on you. Some of you are going to need this. Some of you might need it to be even higher to keep those shoulder blades in. Maybe, you need the chair, or even, blocks on the chair. There's nothing wrong with that. And some of you that have been either practicing longer or simply just more flexible, maybe you can go here, or, eventually I wouldn't do the floor today right now, even though it feels like it's going in, but I get this, I can access this more. So you don't have to go to your limit. And high blocks is certainly fine. I certainly get more of that experience, more length on the front of the spine with higher blocks. So we'll be here for a moment, lengthening through the side ribs, extending the front of the spine. And then we come forward, but we don't simply round the back to come forward. We bend the elbows out to the side, and notice there will be a rounding, but I'm maintaining all this length here. At this point, I do need to lower the blocks. And for me, fingertips on the floor will be better. Elbows out to the side. And I'm not trying to get my head to my shins, but I'm trying to get my chest closer to the big toes. Then when you come out, you go back through the concave version. So I'll take my blocks back, concave back. And then you can take your hands on your hips. Keep that concave back all the way up. All right? Let's try it. So you can start with your hands on your hips. Don't push the front bottom ribs forward. They stay in here. It's not a gripped abdomen when you come into a forward bend, but don't sink the ribs forward. So begin to come back into this halfway down, this concave back part, fingertips on your blocks. I will let you decide what height block to have. Now the actions of the legs are the same. So balance evenly on the feet, lengthen from the inner knees all the way through the inner groins. The flesh of the inner thighs moves back, and lift from the outer knees to the outer hips, compact the hips. Now maintain that, lengthen through the side ribs, and extend from your pubic bone to your navel. Keep those thighs pressing back. It's going to help. That's part of the traction, is the thighs pressing back. And then you lengthen from your pubic bone to your navel, from your navel to your sternum, and from your sternum to your collarbone. Now maintain all that length. Inhale. On your exhalation, bend your elbows out to the sides. Take your navel down first. Then your chest goes. Then you can let your head go. And before we were doing the holding your elbows version, and if you want to hold your elbows, that's fine. Otherwise, you can take your fingertips on lower blocks or on the floor with your elbows out to the side. So your choice if you want to hold your elbows or have your fingertips on the surface. Lift through the legs, still lengthening from the inner knees through the inner groins, lifting from the outer knees to the outer hips. Move your hips towards the ceiling. and then coming out through a concave back. So maybe you need to make your lift higher again. So take those higher blocks, take that concave back, shoulder blades back into the body, lengthening the front of the spine. And then take your hands on your hips, extend the chest forward. Inhale, come up. Take your feet together. Tadasana. If you prefer feet hip distance apart in Tadasana, that's fine. Here in Tadasana, thighs back. Still the lengthening from the inner knees to the lower abdomen. Lifting from the outer knees to the outer hips. Lengthening through the side ribs, extending through your arms. Have space in your armpits, please. And release. Watch again. Forward bends are about legs. It feels like all the work is in the torso. There's work in the torso, there's more work in the legs. So we'll start off in the concave back, we'll go down. Now I'm going to hold my elbows here. Just watch for a moment because I want you to see how this works. I'm going to hold my elbows because I think it's more, you can see more if I hold my elbows. You can either, when we go, you can hold your elbows or have your fingertips on the floor. So this is where I wind up in a forward bend. This is it. Now, the only thing I'm going to do next is lift from my outer knees to outer hips. I'm not going to do anything with my torso. I'm only doing one action, lifting from my outer knees to my outer hips. Now I'm going to lengthen my torso. Not much there. We'll come out with the concave back. Were you able to see the difference when I lifted my hips? So most of us are trying to pull our torso down. If you lift through your legs, your torso comes over. All that came from that one action. Yes, I already did some lengthening of the inner thighs from the prep stuff, but all that torso coming down was solely from lifting from the outer knees to the outer hips and moving my hips up. All right, so let's try it again. Take your blocks. So feet hip distance apart. They can be a little wider. If you're very tight in the hamstrings, then just take them a little wider. Hands on hips. So establish the legs here. Lengthen through the inner thighs, right? From the inner knees to the lower abdomen. Flesh of the inner thighs back. Lift from the outer knees to the outer hips. Begin getting that muscle memory. Inhale. Exhale. Begin to take the torso down halfway. Fingertips on your blocks. Reestablish the legs. So the thigh bones move back. Of course, balance evenly on the feet. We should have started there. Thigh bones back. Lift the inner leg, so from the inner knees to the inner groins. The flesh of the inner thighs moving back. Lift from the outer knees to the outer hips. And now lengthen the front of the torso from the pubic bone to the navel, from the navel to the sternum, from the sternum to the collarbone. Those shoulder blades move into the body. And then maintaining that length of the spine, that length of the torso, lift through the legs, bend the elbows out to the sides, take your abdomen down first, then your torso comes down, then your head goes. Now you can either have your fingertips on the blocks, depending on your experience right now, fingertips on the blocks or on the floor, or you can hold your elbows like I had them. That's fine too. And now really work through the legs. Lift from the outer knees to the outer hips and move your hips towards the ceiling. And don't pull your torso down, allow it to go down. The more you work those legs, the more your torso comes over. And if you notice, I spent a lot of time getting there. I didn't just lift my hips and then see where I wound up. I really spent some time. Press into the heels as you lift your hips up. Press into the center heels. And now when you've gotten as much as you can, then sure, lengthen from your hips through your armpits, from your armpits through your elbows. If you're holding your elbows down towards the floor, if your fingertips are on the floor or a block, then it's elbows out to the sides. Let your head go. The back of your neck is very long here. And then coming out through the concave back. So take whatever lift you were using again, come back into your concave back, still lifting through the legs, the inner legs and the outer legs. Extend the front of the spine again, shoulder blades into the body. And then hands on hips, extend the chest forward. Inhale, come all the way up. Feet together, Tadasana. Is anybody able to experience that? Find the connection from your legs to what happens in the torso? Yeah? Okay. Any questions? Because it only gets worse from here. No, I'm kidding. It gets better. Oh, better. Sometimes you can't tell the difference between worse and better. All right, release. Take your blocks to the side now, but don't move them too far away. Take your chair. So that was Uttanasana, which is forward bend. Really, it means intense pose. Ut is intense. So intense pose. And this is Parshvottanasana, which is Parshva with Uttanasana. So it's side forward bend, or really side intense pose. We're going to do the concave version first. This also has the concave part and then the going forward. So we're going to use the chair for the concave part. You'll take your hands on the chair, front foot forward, so right foot forward, right foot forward, left leg back. And here, watch for a second, because I set it up wrong. So if you notice when I'm here, there's this big angle here in my arms, right? So I don't want that, because what were we just talking about? We want to find that length through those side ribs. So this is what I'm looking for, because when I do this, I'm going to get more length through my side ribs and spine. So back away from the chair a little bit. Now you'll also notice that as I did this, this side is shorter, this hip is coming forward, and my right side is shorter than my left side. So I want to take that hip back so that my right side is the same length or close to it as my left side. All right, and I'll give more instructions from there. All right, so right foot forward, left leg back, but you have to find your distance away from the chair so that your arms are closer in line with your torso, so that your shoulders are not over your wrists, but your armpits are as open as they possibly can be. And if you have to take a part of the chair off the mat, depending on how tall you are, how long you are, so take the back legs off the mat. That's what I really had to end up doing here. Once I adjusted, I took my back legs off the mat. Your front heel is in line with your back arch. If you need it to be a little bit wider, then yes, you can have your front leg a little further to the right, but don't cross the front foot over the back foot. Take the right outer hip away from your right shoulder so the two sides of your torso are closer to being even. And you may hear some familiarity with these next instructions. Lift from the inner knees through the inner groins. The flesh of the inner thighs moves back. Lift from your outer knees to your outer hips. Compact your hips together. As you compact your hips together, lengthen through your side ribs. Take your shoulder blades into the body. So it's a concave back, just like stage one of Uttanasana, Parshvottanasana, or Parshvottanasana. Take the shoulder blades into the body and lengthen from the pubic bone to your navel, from your navel to your sternum, from your sternum to your collarbone. Your head eventually looks up. Now, don't just do it in your neck. It has to come because the shoulder blades are moving in, the chest is moving so far forward that your head begins to come up. So don't take it all in your neck, but also don't just drop your head and look down at your foot. So begin to gaze on the floor forward, if not looking up. I do not look up fully in this pose. It hurts my neck. So I'm not telling you have to look up, but I'm saying don't just look down, and know that eventually where we're going is towards looking up. Do not press those shin bones down. And then bend your front leg and then switch legs. Take your back foot where your front foot is. Take your front foot where your back foot was. Now again, your left hip is moving towards that left shoulder. So take your outer left hip away from your left shoulder so the two sides of your torso are equal in length. Do not jam that shin bone down. Instead, lengthen from your inner knees through your inner groins. Take the flesh of the inner thighs back. Lift from your outer knees to your outer hips. Compact those hips together. And then maintaining those legs. Now there's the lengthening through the side ribs. Take your shoulder blades into the body, concave back as you lengthen from your pubic bone to your navel, navel to your sternum, sternum to your collarbone. The head begins to look up. If you have the flexibility, I'm not saying you can't look up. You can look all the way up. I don't because of my body. Don't do it all in your neck. Make sure the chest is pushing the head forward. Otherwise, you begin to compress the back vertebrae, and we are looking for length. And then bend your front leg, walk your back foot forward. Take your hands on your hips, extend the chest forward, come up into Tadasana. All right. Now, for some of you, you're going to just do that, and you're going to repeat only that part of it because maybe coming down isn't going to be right for you. But some of you are going to, you will start off the same way. We're all going to be here. And then some of you can begin to come down. Maybe you need blocks. You can take your hands on the blocks. Maybe low blocks. Maybe you don't need blocks. Maybe you can do the floor. But notice, I'm not seeking to get my head to my shin. I'm seeking to get my chest towards my big toe. I can feel this hip is coming forward, so I'm going to take that hip back. But now watch. Yes, I'm lengthening through the inner legs. Okay, that's the lengthening of my groins right there. Now I'm going to take the flesh in your inner thighs back. Now I'm going to lift from my outer knees to my outer hips, especially this one here, the front leg, outer knee to outer hip. That's all in my leg. My leg did all that work. We were able to see that? Elbows out to the side. And then once you're here, okay, then let the head go and just see where it winds up. But don't try and push it to your shin. Try and get your chest towards your big toe. Because before your head gets to your shin, and I can't demonstrate this for you because my body isn't there yet, your whole abdomen is on your thigh. Once your abdomen is on your thigh, then everything else goes into place. But for many of us, we need to get that length first. All right, ready? So if you think you might need blocks, have blocks ready for you. Otherwise, the floor might work out for you. Or maybe you'll just stay in the concave position. So arms forward, right foot forward, left leg back. Concave back, concave back, okay? Sean, it looks from this angle that your front foot is crossed over your back foot. Now, it might be an optical illusion for me, but just double check that it's not crossing over. Concave back. Don't everyone just rush down. Concave back. Lengthen from your inner knees to your inner groins. The flesh of the inner thigh is moving back. Lift from your outer knees to your outer hips. Compact the hips together and take that right hip back. Take that right hip back so the two sides of your torso are equal in length. Lengthen the front of the spine first. So that means lengthen through the side ribs, lengthen from your pubic bone to your navel, from your navel to your sternum, from your sternum to your collarbone. Your head begins to look forward as you bring the shoulder blades into the body. Concave back. Now maintain that length of the torso. Inhale. On your exhalation, now you can take your hands down, bend your elbows out to the sides. Take your abdomen down first. Abdomen down first, then chest. Then yes, you can let your head go, but remember the work of the legs. Lengthen through the inner groins, yes. The flesh of the inner thighs moving back, yes. And now really, especially on that front leg, but it is both legs, lift from the outer knees to outer hips to allow your torso to come down further. At this point, it might be optimal to say something kind to your hamstring instead of being pissed off at it. It's not your hamstring's fault that you sit in a chair or the seat of your car for, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 hours a day. You can apologize to it and be kind to it. If you can, George, more distance between your front and back legs. I think it'll be more accessible to you. Really lift through those legs so that your torso comes down. And take your chest towards your front big toe. Elbows bending out to the sides, not back, but out to the sides. And at the end, yes, you let your head completely go. Let your head hang. And it goes where it goes. Don't try and get your head to your shin. Even once you let it go, try and get your chest towards your big toes. Yeah, and for you, Olivia, move the shin bone diagonally towards the ceiling as you lift from your outer knee to your outer hip. It's a little more complex, but that's going to protect that knee. Do the words make sense? So then coming out, come into your concave back. So you can lift your blocks up, come into a concave back or hands back on the chair. And then bend your front leg, take your feet together. Tadasana. Hands on your hips, come all the way up. Come all the way up and out. That was a journey, huh? Shall we journey the other side? Left foot forward, right leg back. Hands on the chair. So immediately take that left hip back. Take the left hip back. Make the size of your torso even in length. Lengthen through the inner legs. Take the flesh of the inner thighs back and lift. Get that understanding of lifting. Don't come down yet. Get the concave back first. Lift from the outer knees to the outer hips. Compact your hips together. And as you compact your hips together, now lengthen through the side ribs. Now lengthen from your pubic bone to your navel, from your navel to your sternum, from your sternum to your collarbone. Take those shoulder blades into the body to extend the chest forward, which then brings the head up. Now you spend all this time getting that length. Maintain that length. Inhale. On your exhalation, take your hands down, bend your elbows out to the sides, take your navel down first, then your chest, then your head. And yes, lengthen through the inner legs. Take the flesh of the inner thighs back. But really work, especially on that front leg. That front hip still needs to go back. Take that front hip back, lift from the outer knees to the outer hips, especially that left outer knee to outer hip. The more you lift up on that left front, outer knee to outer hip, and move that left hip up and back, the more your torso comes down. It's in the lifting. See, we think it's all in the coming down. It's in the lifting that you will come down. Elbows out to the sides, so your elbows can bend. Take your elbows out to the sides. You adjust the height of the blocks, or maybe you're down enough and you don't even need the blocks anymore. That's fine. Move the blocks out of the way in that case. And on each exhalation, lift the front outer knee to the outer hip and take your chest towards your big toe. Let your skull release. Let your head go. And observe your pose. And then concave back. So take your blocks or hands on the chair. Look up. Lengthen through those side ribs, shoulder blades into the body, concave back, lengthening the front of the spine. And then bend the front leg, walk the back foot forward, take your feet together, hands on hips, extend the chest forward as you come up, Tadasana. Adho Mukha Svanasana with the support of the chair. So take your hands on the chair. Now you're going to walk both feet back. Try and have your hands, I'm going to show everybody, come out, because more than half of you are doing it. Most of you are doing it, which means at home, maybe probably a lot of you are doing it. And I used to do it all the time too, so I get it. A lot of us put our hands here, right, so that we feel there's something to push into. Don't. Take your hands on the top of the chair. Now, for those that are wider, you'll see my whole hand's not on the chair. If you're narrow, you can have your whole hand on the chair, but I imagine that this is more of a bench than a chair, and I have my hands wide so that they are the distance of my shoulders, and I don't wrap the fingers, I just imagine that the chair is bigger. So yes, you're pressing forward, but there's also a downward action. So you can press with the ball of the first finger and thumb, because if you're here, you're not really pressing, you're pushing with the heel of your hand. You're not pressing the ball of the first finger and thumb. So press the ball of the first finger and thumb, rotate the upper arms out, and then everything else is the same. Okay? So no hands on the front lip of the chair. Hands fully on the chair flat, which means you can't just push forward, you have to push down as well. It is both, down and forward. So press the thigh bones back. Press through the balls of the first finger and thumb, rotate the upper arms out, lengthen through the inner arms, armpits, and side ribs as you press your thighs back, lengthening through the inner legs, lifting from the outer knees to the outer hips. Finding now that symmetrical length. Ears in line with your upper arms here. And then look up, walk your feet forward. Take your hands on your hips, extend your chest forward. Inhale, come all the way up, come into Tadasana. Check in with yourself. And as long as we have these beautiful chairs here, let's use them for some twisting. Take the chair, turn the chair so the back of the chair faces the front of the room. Back of the chair facing the front of the room. And then you're going to sit in the chair with your face facing the parking lot. Well, or at home, there's no parking lot maybe. So the right side of your chair, the right side of your body is facing the back of the chair. As best you can with this chair, these chairs in the studio have this angle there. And depending what chair you might have at home, square your hips, square your knees with your hips, and take your heels underneath your knees. Now, even in twists, it is beneficial to lengthen the inner groins from the knees to the lower abdomen, to descend the flesh of the inner thighs, and to draw from the outer knees to the outer hips, especially the lengthening of the inner legs. It's so beneficial to these twists. Now extend your arms forward, arms up, Urdhva Hastasana. Watch those front ribs, keep the front ribs towards the back body. Inhale, on your exhalation, you'll turn and take hold of the sides of the chair. Elbows up, shoulders down. Now for me, as soon as I do this, I grip my inner legs. Maybe it's just me, but go to your inner legs and re-lengthen the inner groins. Elbows up, shoulders down. Keep your chin in line with your sternum. Inhale. On your exhalation, draw your left hand towards you, push with your right hand, and begin to turn towards the right. Each inhalation, lifting and lengthening. Each exhalation, turning. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, turning. Again, we're turning the torso, not just moving our head. Elbows up, shoulders down. Wrap the ribs around. Notice if you begin to lean towards the left or towards the right, or forward or back, and can you keep your spine perpendicular to the floor? Inhale, maintain that lift. Exhale, come to center. Turn to face the other side. Square your hips, your knees, and your heels. Lengthen the groins. Front bottom ribs towards the back body. Arms forward, arms up. Get that length. Keep the ribs in as the arms go up. Yep, that's it, Erica. Inhale. On your exhalation, turn to the left, take hold of the back of the chair. Elbows up, shoulders down. Re-lengthen the inner groins. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, turning towards the chair. So you're pulling with your right hand, pushing with your left hand. Soft hands though, no tight fists. Soft, flat hands. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, turning. Again, chin in line with your sternum. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, turning. Inhale, maintain that lift. Exhale, come to center. Turn around. If you turn your head first, you actually get less of a turn. So we're going to work for a moment with turning the head the opposite way, and you actually, strangely enough, get more of a turn. Lengthen the inner legs. Draw from the outer knees to the outer hips. Keep the front bottom ribs towards the back body. Arms forward, arms up. Urdhva Hastasana, front ribs back. Inhale, maintain the length of the inner legs as you exhale. Take hold of the back of the chair. Now look over your left shoulder. So the opposite way of your turn. Lengthen the inner legs. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, turning. Keep looking over your left shoulder. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, turning. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, turning. And when you feel you turn as much as is optimal for today, take one last inhalation, and then turn the neck and gaze over your right shoulder. But you always want the head to be the last thing to turn. And now look back over your left shoulder. And many of you are going to find you can turn more. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, turning. You turn more when you look the opposite way. Rather fascinating. Inhale, maintain that lift. Exhale, come to center. Turn around. Square your hips, knees, heels. Lengthen through the inner legs. Draw from the outer knees to the outer hips, front bottom ribs towards the back body. Arms forward, arms up. Keep the front bottom ribs back. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, take hold of the back of the chair. Lengthen the inner legs. Elbows up, shoulders down. Look over your right shoulder. So the opposite of the way you're turning. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, turning. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, turning. Not the head. The head's actually looking the opposite way. Pace of your breath. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, turning. Not the pace of my breath or my speech. As soon as you feel you've turned an optimal amount for today, inhale. On your exhalation, turn at the neck and gaze over your left shoulder. So yeah, it's important. You want to eventually turn the head in all, both directions. You get flexibility in the cervical spine. But now look back over the right shoulder. Inhale, lifting. Exhale. Chances are there's a little bit more to turn now. Inhale, maintain that lift. Exhale, come to center. Stand up, hands on the chair, downward facing dog with the support of the chair. Front bottom ribs towards the back body as you lengthen through the arms, armpits, and side ribs, and press the thighs back. Lengthen through those inner legs. And remember, no hands on that lip of the chair, so you're using your hands to press the chair down and press the chair forward. Of course, the chair is not going forward because it's on the sticky mat. And at home, you can also do it on the wall. Sometimes I put my chair on the wall to keep it from moving. Look up, walk your feet forward. Take your hands on your hips, extend your chest forward. Inhale, come all the way up, take your feet together. Tadasana. Move the chair off of your mat, lie back. Bend your legs into your chest. Give yourself a hug. Either take your hands around your shins, or you can take your hands behind your knees. Draw your thighs towards your torso. And really give yourself a hug like you mean it, like you care. And this is a beautiful opportunity to say something kind to yourself. Remembering that the purpose of yoga is to still the fluctuations of the mind so that you can bathe in your own true splendor. Can you take some time here to recognize your true splendor, to say something kind to yourself, and perhaps even bathe in your true splendor? Take your hands now to the face of your knees. On your inhalation, keep your hands on the knees and allow your thighs to move away from your torso, just a few inches. And on your exhalation, draw your thighs back in. This is to massage the abdomen and the lower back. Inhaling, letting the legs move away. Exhaling, legs move towards you. So take a few breaths like this, the pace of your breath. And on your next inhalation, let your feet come to the floor. Straighten your legs one at a time. Let your legs fall out to the sides. Take your arms out to the sides at about 30-degree angles to your body or wherever feels comfortable. And let go. Let go. We did a lot of work in those legs today. Let your legs flow away from your torso. Let them flow away from your torso. Let your arms, ideally spaced in your armpits, let your arms flow away from your torso. So it's like four streams flowing away from the source. The arms and the legs are the streams, the torso is the source. Let your arms and legs flow away from your torso. Let the torso itself let go and surrender. Surrender to the Mother Earth below you. Let her hold you so you no longer need to hold yourself. Let your skull release as you release all of your facial features, your forehead, releasing your eyebrows, your temples. Rest your eyes into your cheekbones as you relax your eyelids, softening your cheekbones and your nose, softening your cheeks and your lips. And letting your jawbone release from the bones of your skull. Release, relax the inside of your mouth as well. Let the tongue rest on your lower palate as you soften the inside of your mouth. You don't need to breathe, the breath will breathe you. Can you become a witness for the breath as the breath breathes you? Shavasana. To begin slowly coming out of your Shavasana, take a soft, smooth, peaceful inhalation and a longer, smooth, peaceful exhalation. Wiggle your toes, wiggle your nose. Bend your legs, place your feet on the floor with your knees together, feet apart. Take your hands, place them onto your abdomen or onto your chest. Feet on the floor, feet on the floor. Knees together, feet apart, hands on your abdomen or chest. Let the healing energy of your hands penetrate your body, pierce through your layers, and heal whatever it is you may need healing with today. When you feel ready, extend your right arm past your right ear, roll to the right side. If you want to roll to the left side, of course, that's fine. Be on your side for a moment. Take a few breaths. And when you feel ready, take your top hand, place it on the floor in front of your heart, turn your torso towards the floor, push to come up chest first, head last. Come up to sit in, you can sit up on a lift. Bring your palms together, thumbs at your chest. Broaden across the collarbones, also broaden across the top back. Draw your eyes back and down as you turn the corners of your lips up, taking a moment to observe your practice. What's different? What's changed? And remember to take your yoga practice with you outside of this room, into the rest of your day, into your evening, into all of your interactions with other people, with kindness and with compassion. Kindness and compassion for others, most importantly, kindness and compassion for yourself. Let's close our practice together by chanting one collective Om. Deep inhalation. Gently let your eyelids open. Big smile. Namaste. Bow to the divine within you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody at home. So happy to have you back, Melinda. Welcome. So nice to have you here, Erica. Welcome to Austin Yoga Tree.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, Brent.
See you, Jonathan. Great
If
class.
anyone has any questions, let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Chaya. Thank you, Sandy.
Class.
Thank you, Jonathan.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.